Welcome back, everybody, to Enlightened Masculinity. You know me, Yogi Chris. I'm here with Akash Intikatakam and our very special guest from our last episode, if you caught us, Vince, Hollywood Aphrodites Prince, Kelvin. Now, Vince, you have an incredible event coming up. It's a biannual event in Hollywood, California. It's called the Cosmic Code, and it's really the forerunner as far as events go for Enlightened Masculinity. It's almost like the poster event for Enlightened Masculinity. Who knows? Maybe Akash and I will actually take over this event in 30 or 40 years when you finally retire. I don't know. You may never retire. You'll be
Never.
like Obi-Wan. You'll get only stronger when you pass, and your presence will just be felt that much stronger. That was kind of gloomy. I almost felt kind of gloomy going that way with it, but it's true. I feel like you're like my Obi-Wan. You're my Obi-Wan, Vince. And so getting right into it, I'd love to hear your perspective on, you've been on this path. Anybody, if you didn't catch the last episode, go back on the iTunes, go back on Libsyn, wherever you're finding this on all the platforms. Catch that episode to get a backstory. We're just picking it up. You've been in this personal development for so long, and especially in the dating and the pickup, in the interaction, the actual interactions with women, which is a rare thing for a public figure and an influencer to even be like pushing on that frequency, of the male-female relationships. And the ones that we find, Akash has been finding dozens and dozens. They're very sensitive in how they go about it. And you're not. You're a very masculine man in my estimation. And I'm curious, what would you tell yourself in the past, like maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that would have helped you in accelerating in this journey that you're on, maybe, or would have just benefited you in some way? What would you tell yourself 10 or 20 years ago about your journey?
Wow, that's a spectacular question. Thank you guys for having me on. I think that I would no longer process time the way we just processed it. I would understand that everything is preparation. And what really makes the difference is what you do when you feel like you've done it all, repeat it time and time and time again. So as much as you stated, yes, indeed, I've been at it for quite some time. For me, this is barely the beginning. First, it's an idea whose time has come finally. I know that the simple combination that we are here today, talking the way we are talking today, would have not been possible 20, 30 years ago. So it's fresh, it's here, it's now. It's a group effort. So you mentioned the cosmic code, So I feel that more and more, social media have so brought us together that now we can really capitalize on a group effort like the cosmic code, where you guys are going to bring so much to the plate. And I've refined the formula again and again and again. The first of those big events was in 2007, which is 12 years ago at the time of this recording. And what I have maintained was the magnificence of the event, but we condensed it to a smaller group of participants, still the same amount of world-class gurus. So now it's so condensed. So for me, I feel that in the words of James Dean, be always new, transcend the illusion of time. I still feel a bit like a baby. And I feel that right now I am ready. Right now I have colleagues that have the backbone and we're marching forward. Right now we have an audience that is ripe and ready. Now is the time, and watch. Everything has brought it to this point. The learning curve is one of the most fascinating phenomena. Think about history. History, the biggest gap went from however long we've been around to only recently, suddenly, rotary phone, smartphones, okay? So it's the same with all efforts, all the pioneers, the Napoleon Hill, all of that. Now is the time when, boom, it's going to evolve. And at the same time, things change, but things also don't change at the same time. So it's all good.
Vince, I want to ask a question regarding the whole idea of we've heard in this day and age the Me Too era and toxic masculinity. And there's been in some ways an attack on masculinity in popular culture, in media, etc. Given your unique perspective and vantage point, not only being in Hollywood, oftentimes with many of these celebrities on the red carpet, but also in the industry itself, can you speak a little bit about, I guess, this whole concept of toxic masculinity, and what are the benefits as to what masculinity really brings in society, and where are the places where it's been, in some senses, it hasn't expressed itself properly?
Well, all conflicts, whether internal, regional, cultural, political, global, come from one simple thing: a lack of understanding. We admit the fact that we still know very little because we're unable to witness it all in one shot. So I think that the solution is to heighten our perception. First, I personally like to organize things very differently. My darling, can you make the decision between whether you are departing or not, because the little sound? Okay, good.
Really angry.
Beautiful. I love you, baby.
I love you, love.
I could hear those little sounds by the door. Okay, so number one, let's pay attention to what's good. What's good is that things are coming to the surface. Okay, I mean, every evolution. When I was a kid, I once got to work on the land. We stayed at a farm, and they asked all the little kids to help with planting. I was certain I would have a little bag and put seeds. No, that's not how it started. Pick up the garbage, pick up the rocks, prepare the land. So right now, a lot of stuff is coming to the surface. It has to be seen in a new light, okay? So the problem is that it's all put underneath the same umbrella, one big bag, when it's a whole bunch of different things. So first thing, medias are a business. Everything is a fucking business. Medicine is a business. Death is a business. Everything is a business. See, there's people who have the pretense and the audacity to think, no, we are different. Everything is a fucking business. Media, their business consists of even more than getting likes on social media, getting views. To get views, you need shock. The problem is it's compartmentalized. So right now, they got it. It's going to frighten men. It's going to stir women. Bingo. But is that really what's going on in the fucking world? No. Okay? So let's know what is what. We always point the fingers in all sorts of directions, but let's know what is what. Then I came across, I have a dear friend of mine. She is an incredible reporter. She went at sea. Over there, she was reporting. There was the captain of the boat. There was the a small crew and her friend photographer on her side. The captain makes a fucking move, and poor thing, she's lost at sea. That's absolutely disgusting. So she came on the open. Thank God. And why would a man do something like this? So on the other hand, we also have some men. The problem right there is scarcity. They think they're unaware of what's possible for them. If suddenly the whole planet goes absolutely crazy, people who would never, ever have stolen or killed, we removed everything. Watch how quickly they will violate that. So we have to know the remedy. It's absolutely disgusting. But what causes that? Men lacking the training. So we are the solution. And then, of course, on women's side, there's also, after a while, I'm sure there's a small percentage that sees an opportunity to make money, and maybe they're lying on their side as well. So there's all those different elements. Real masculinity, real femininity would be, okay, can we stop acting like kindergartners and really bring some maturity in it? Because like that, it's never going to get better. And can we have the humility to also recognize that the biggest problem on this planet is that we are assuming that we're operating ourselves and not acknowledging a force that is within all of us and operating everything. And even now, that part of you that's able to hear and listen, the heartbeat, my lips moving, my eyes blinking, I'm not generating that. I did not created that. So when we turn more to that force, it's going to resolve those things. For as long as we try to resolve them by pointing fingers and putting everything generalizing, no, it's a bracket. They are very bad elements. The cause is always the same, is their distress comes from a lack of awareness of what's possible for them. So the long-term solution is real education to not be surprised. We don't talk about it early on in life, so of course afterwards. And much could be said. I'll pass it back to you guys.
Hell yeah. You know, I personally had a lot of realizations while you're talking and some questions came up, but I want to give some what do you call this? Well, we have a question from the audience. That's what I'm trying to say. So here's a question from Raj Patel. It says, how can I go about raising, and this is a question, I'll just hand it over to you, Vince. You're our special guest. I'd love to hear your take. I already know my ideas about these things. I want to hear your ideas. Raj Patel asks, how can I go about raising children to ensure that males and females embrace both their masculine and feminine traits as they get older?
As within, so without. Find it within. The rebalancing of the masculine within with the feminine is the solution. Also, there it's almost like, okay, we have the masculine, we have the feminine. We also have the energy of the parent or the mentor and the child or the student, you know, anything that could fit in that relation, okay? Which we also have within. Oftentimes, the real problem is not the kids or the future generation. The real problem is the lack of a connection and a relation within. My big thing right now is self-relation. And self-relation is not self-esteem. Self-relation is not self-confident. Self-relation is to establish a dialogue within, because most of the time within, it's a monologue. So when those two are balanced, okay, for example, suddenly the guy has that sense as a person. Suddenly you have a sense of, oh, I don't know about this and that. And now the masculine comes in and goes, that's okay. I know you've been concerned, but there's always a way, and we are going to take care of it. And now there's a reluctance within from the, you know, we all are children that have grown, whose body have grown. So maybe we get a little stubborn. I don't want to do this. Now, what relation do we have within as an adult? Because sometimes as an adult, if there's like a younger part of us that has a bit of a challenge, we go at it like, come on. Like guys who are not approaching and they go, come on, man, go for it. I don't know why. What if instead there is some, hey, I understand. Again, that true masculine force, and the feminine is the spaciousness. Within the masculine, you have the feminine. So for that radiance to be there, it's needed. The spaciousness is needed. So first, become aware of your own self-relation. For me, 2 decades of affirmation, hypnosis, and so on. I thought I had it. I consider myself upbeat, positive thinking person. But if you really go a little bit deeper within your unconscious, at first it was frightening. I realized that the majority of my time was spent in internal conflict, nothing major. Conflicts, debate. It was lacking creativity, and it was not necessarily constructive. Yeah, for as long as everything's going well. But there, observe that. Do not judge yourself, and know that as a grown-up adult with a force within that facilitates and regulates all those bodily functions, then you're very capable to very rapidly reconciliate all parts within you. Feel one, be there for you, by you, as you. and remove all internal conflicts. There could be a sense of distress, but it doesn't need to lead to a conflict. And the more that happens within, the more that's going to happen without as well. It goes back to, yeah, all external conflicts are just a reflection of what's happening within all of us.
Absolutely, Vince. Brother, you know, I have a bit of a complicated question, or I think it seems like that to me, and I think you're privy to it, but I'll give a little, just a little couple sentences for the audience. You know, the idea that there's a self, an observer of everything that's happening, that, you know, were I to take you at 2 days old, let's say 2 days old, I take you from your parents and raise you somewhere else in the world, you'd have a totally different mind, a totally different self-relation, totally different conversations in your head. Be raised it, but there'd still be you. There'd be a you that didn't change. And if you went with that kind of idea of spirituality, you know, the idea of uniting with the self that is beyond the mind, and then also this idea of like as within, so without, where what's in your mind, you're going to manifest these kinds of relationships, these kinds of interactions in the world. Where is it for you? Is there a balance between like a sense of you know, a yoga, you could call it, a yoga with the self, and the balance with that and the relationships with women, the relationships in the world as a man or however you identify? Where have you found this balance between those two?
I think it's already here. And one frame of mind is to non-judgmentally consider everything perfect biofeedback, and to just surrender and readjust as needed, and to exist only in divine order. Okay? So we presuppose that the balance has to be found. But what if the same way if I stand up and I lose equilibrium? It's clear that I was too tilted because it's happening physically and I can visually witness it, I can feel it. What if, let's say, for whatever reason, I wake up one day and I feel really good, and then I wake up the next day and there's a little unease. Is it really unease, like everything was well and oh no, that came? Or perhaps it's the kind of information I needed to readjust. So what if we open for a moment to the fact that we're not missing anything within, we're not missing anything without, everything is there, we just are still learning how to read the signs around us, and we get lost in them. And one thing we need to eliminate as soon as possible is we need to reinvent language. We need to reinvent it because it's based on so many misconceptions. But notice we're expanding right here and right now. Some people watching may at this point be lost. Some maybe thought, okay, here's that pickup guy. What's he gonna say? So it's also important to keep it simple and to work with polarity. So we just expanded our minds right now. Let's narrow it down to one simple thing. At any given time, we can personally contribute to ourselves or start to work a little bit against ourselves. Sure, there might be fluctuations. Like right now, you know, I've been at it super early. I am moving. I was on a movie set for 4 fucking hours. We're doing this right now. I got to finish the move. I'm orchestrating the convention. So I don't deny that I'm feeling a little, see, I don't want to put a name to it, but in that moment, I can notice that and start to work against me. I can start to go, oh man, that was a lot, and what am I going to do, and what if I don't finish the move? Or I can start to go and work for me. And you just were exposed to some of my ideas. They're just my ideas. Who am I other than a guy who's been focused on just one thing? How can I better my conditions? And how can I help people better their own conditions? So now focus on you. And we narrow it down to one simple equation. Your very next move, as you've been watching this or even as you're watching, are you enhancing the quality of your experience, even if it's not too easy? Meaning, the chair maybe is not that comfortable, but are you making that a little easier by taking a breath, leaning back, finding out if there's a pillow or a better chair? Or are you starting to shrink and regress and take yourself to subtle hell? And also to know that at any given time, you can start to open your mind the same way I'm doing my best to do right now towards greater possibilities and so on. And if you find yourself so expanded for a moment that you're not sure what's next, breath in, bring it back to simple. You have your new core compass. Am I moving in the direction of at least slightly easier, better, more pleasant, more practical, more beneficial? Or am I making it slightly worse for myself? And when we start to play with that, correct it even if minimally at first for our own selves, then we can pass this on. And now, almost like a chain reaction at a biochemistry level or the atom, which I'm not an expert with, but I can imagine. Tuk, 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 tuk. And now there's the betterment. While others still be at it, the news or however it's going to be, like, and they did this, and we did that, and this is right, and this is wrong, and let's find some order, let's bring some order in the midst of it all.
Vince, before we close up the show, I had one last question, and that is, what do men most often miss about women or misunderstand about women? From your experience.
Yeah, okay, that's super simple. I love that question. It's so easy. Men are unable to read women because they filter from their own insecurities. That's it. And women do the same. Okay?
Drop the bomb right there.
We clash because we're unable to read each other. Okay? All female behavior that appears to be unpleasant to a guy is just fear-based and vice versa. But we don't see that and we take things personally. Why do we take things personally? If you got your things like in order, then you go, wow, that's just bizarre. Because we're not willing to deal with our own insecurities, because as men, we bought into the lie that it was not okay to admit that we were insecure. And true masculinity in this day and age is to have the daringness, the willingness to kind of walk through the valley of the shadow of death and fear no evil. And if you really want to be man and attune with your masculinity, start by measuring differently and avoid being a guy who went through your first impression. We show up, it's kindergarten or even before that, and there's other kids around. We don't know how to handle it, and we don't know that they don't know how to handle it, that nobody knows how to handle it. But we quickly hold on to one thing. And maybe we realize we were a little bit better built and we could intimidate, so we hold on to being a bully. Maybe we notice that if we don't say much, we cancel ourselves, we go, oh, not me, I'm not that great, nobody gives a shit. Or maybe we notice that if we can make people laugh or if we do something crazy and so on. So then we hold on to this instead of saying, I'm uncomfortable because that's not cool. When are we going to do it? Elementary school? I don't think so. When are we going to do it? High school? I don't think so. Then we show up college, and by then, we get caught into, now I'm on my own, I got to find a job and so on. What are we going to do? Pull a colleague or a client and say, I have to tell you, it's unbearable. I'm doing good. I'm alive. I'm sustaining. Yeah, I don't deny that. But for years, I've never been able to admit that I am sometimes a little uncomfortable and I'm not really sure of myself. Okay? You have two types of people out there. You have people that are either lying or people who are hiding, because show me one person right now. Contact me right away and I want to learn from you, who will say, I love 100% of me. I do not look back at any aspect of what I have done with any form of judgment. And I feel full, I feel complete, and I know that whomever may be with me, my presence is a gift. So we aim to be that, but that begins with knowing that, tell the truth. probably not secure enough to be around the women that you've been wanting, or not secure enough. And we're not going to dwell. You just admit it and see no wrong with it, because we don't want to admit it, because we still presuppose that it's wrong. It's our frame of mind. We bought too much into the illusion of being human, and we try to guide from this brief experience called life, when we'll get better guidance from everything that came before, after, and that already is, because there's a reality in which before and after are the same. I mean, if you have infinity as a time frame, you know, where were you before? So before,
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
Yeah, that old story of what is it? What was your face before you were born, or who were you before you were born? And you know what you just said there at the end was so profound for me. If you're watching this on iTunes, everybody, leave us a comment. Let us know that you want Vince back, because I want Vince back. I wish we could go another hour, but we can't. So we're gonna need to wrap it up. I have one last little tiny question for you, Vince. And you know, you're talking about being able to read the other person, especially men being able to read women, and they're misreading, and it's a cause for suffering. And then this intertwined with insecurities. So what's the process? What does a guy do? How I remember being lost, and I found teachings, I found lessons, I found a coach, I practiced, but I don't remember needing to be convinced, like I was ready for it. Like what is the shift in beliefs? There's the question. What is the shift that a man would need to go through to go down this essential path to be able to read the other person, improve their communication with women, and rid themselves of the insecurities that are obviously nobody wants those, you know? In your experience, how would you what's needed there? Well, I know you've been saying, sorry. I know.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. I want to go fast. Okay. Yeah. First, you got to make your own choices, because you are here for you. If you really stay with that thought for a second, I'm here for me. How are you going to be here for you? Partially, half-ass? Are you going to be reluctant with your own self because you are reluctant to, rightfully so, follow sometimes the directions you got when you were growing up? Are you going to be one of those half-ass employees that the day you become an employer and got to deal with them, or the day you are late and you're in a rush and you get poor service? Are you going to be that to you? If you're not going to be that to you, then what are you going to be for you? You're going to be 100%. So then there's not even a question that you shouldn't grasp onto anything that you can to better your experience. Then you also have to add the second layer, which is many tend to still buy into it's final and it's fatal. Okay, you still hear people that they assume that their condition, and they will defend it maybe with extreme arguments. Well, there's certain countries right now that if a person was to be, you know what, unless they're ready to die for it, it'd be difficult for them to really change their condition, but they can do it internally then. So you have to know that there's a way, there's a solution for everything. Do not be fooled by what came first. Don't buy into your own first impression. The me from the past would be in awe right now. I could not foresee so much has happened that I could not foresee. And then it's simple, that relation. One of your main assignment is to let go of your own agitation, because otherwise you're not really with people, you're not really with things, you're not really making decisions, you're being reactive. You are trying to get out of your own unease, and your choices are not organic. So how do we get out of unease in one shot? By coming back to 100% trust. What if you knew for sure that there's such a higher purpose to this thing, that even the event of death should be of no concern to you? Yes, there will be manifestation in between. It will appear very unfair, but it's all an illusion. So come back to what would I feel like if I knew that 100% I will be certain? And the process also, you know, if I look back, my only regret is all the time, energy that I wasted being concerned when I'm here today. And all of my prior concerns brought nothing, the zero value. And I didn't even concern just myself, I concerned others. If I could remove all of this. So now I'm committed to not infuse any of this. So now you're no longer agitated. So now you can really notice and observe. Then you gotta no longer be concerned about what others may think of you, because it brings you back to agitation. And live and let live, and know that you shouldn't want everybody to like you. So if a person doesn't get you, doesn't like you, that's absolutely fine. Now, you do that first, watch how you're gonna notice things differently. For me, I enter any nightclub, I walk the streets, even at a major celebrity Hollywood event, including me, because you never want to think you're superior, we're still human, and so on. But I'm aware that it's back to that old theory of it's either an expression of love, and by love I don't mean hippie love, but just like a radiance, or it's fear. And you wander today through the world, you will know that everybody's in a state of fear. So,
amen. Thank you, Vince. Wow. I really feel as if I evolved. I know I evolved in this podcast. You really straightened out some lines in my mind. And I know that the audience, anybody listening to this, took tremendous value from it. That's, again, find Vince at vincekelvin.com. And we'll put the link in the descriptions and all of that. And we'll even put a link for the Cosmic Code. If you'd like to say anything about that, now would be a good time.
Yeah, the Cosmic Code, actually, both of your hosts are going to be there. It's very unique. You can participate from home or in person. It's 4 days in Hollywood, California, and it's an adventure. It's a journey. We go from a spiritual sanctuary to a millionaire's mansion, 12 gurus. What's unique about it is that oftentimes you hear people say, yeah, you're going to grow, all areas of your life. But it's often not true. Or I don't think I've ever witnessed what awaits you over there, where we go as far as we can in all possible directions. Okay? I promise you, you will find God, and you will also get laid, and you will have no problem in the midst of those two. You will spend time with a world-famous adult film producer, and you will spend time with people whose level of enlightenment makes even those who proclaim to be enlightened be still pretty much in the dark. And I hope, and I thank you guys, and it's amazing what's happening here, because, you make it possible to voice more, and I'm looking at you guys, and I'm a little like, at the level of technology, I go, wow, we're on Zoom and YouTube at the same time. So you're already fucking ahead of me right here. And then we start from like enlightened masculinity. When I first started, it'd be like, okay, how do I announce those two words? It's like if you read the old self-help stuff, it's brilliant, but you can tell one thing. Most of those early books, The Power of Positive Thinking and so on, the majority of the book was a series of stories that had only one purpose: to get people to open their mind to the ideas that today we could just say 1, 2, 3, and we don't need the long preamble for people to go, yeah, of course. Okay? So you're ahead, you're the next generation, and this is true evolution right now, and it brings warmth to my inner being. That's the greatest thing right there, okay? Because the saddest thing would be it's a fucking wimpy erection. We went for 2 decades of like, come on, let's evolve. And then what comes after that is like, blah, 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 blah. No. So right there, it shows that this is going to be like, wow, you guys have me on my toes. I want to do 10 times more. And I hope, last thing, okay, that there's also going to be some hate towards me in the comments, because that's when I will know I have done the job. And I just hope, at least one little thing, somebody call me a rooster or some shit like this. Please.
A
because-
rooster. I see that. Oh.
Oh, yeah, the cock. Here we are. Yeah, see the cock. James Hollywood, the cock, Kelvin. Yeah, because if I don't stir you, then I did something wrong. So,
Akash, you have any closing ideas?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you very much, Vince. A mentor of mine, and amazing to have this interview with you.
Yes.
Closing statements on my end are keep up, thrive, stay sexy.
Amen.
oh, stay sexy. I'm just a simple man. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Namaste. Bye-bye.
Fucking nutcase, if you ask me.